Hi, Malia. This is Mr. Che again. Hopefully, maybe I could try to explain it a little bit better this time around, especially with the sine cosine thing. So let's try to. I'm gonna use my Promethean board here. Hopefully, maybe that'll make a little bit things more clearer. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so let's go with a few of them. Okay, so here we have the unit circle. Here's a unit circle. Okay. And we know now that this is 0, this is pi over 2, right? And this is 3 pi over 2. All right? And if you do it by degrees, it's 0. This is 90 degrees. This is 180 degrees. This is 270 degrees, right? And this is a full 360. All right? So now remember that cosine of something deals with the x value, all right? And the sine of an angle deals with the y value. All right, so right now, this point right here is 0, 1, 0. So if we say the cosine of 0 degrees is equal to 1, and the sine of 0 is equal to 0. Okay? And then you go up here, this is 0, 1. So in this case right here, the cosine of pi over 2 or the cosine of 90 degrees is equal to, this is the x value is 0, and the sine of pi over 2 or the sine of 90 degrees is equal to 1. All right? Hopefully that's making sense. If we go over here, this is -1, 0. So the sine of pi or the sine of 180 degrees is equal to 0. That's the y value. And the cosine of pi or the cosine of 180 degrees is equal to -1. All right, hopefully this is making sense. All right, now let's go to pi over 4. And remember I did the 30, 60, 90 and the 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. So here we have a triangle right here. And pi over 4, that means that this angle and this angle are equal to each other. It means that this side and this side are equal to each other, which means then the sine and the cosine are also equal to each other. And remember through the previous problem, it's root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. So if I have the cosine of pi over 4 or 45 degrees, that equals root 2 over 2. And if I have the sine of pi over 4 or 45 degrees, that equals root 2 over 2 as well. All right? So hopefully this is working. Now, let's go to make a table out of this. All right? So right here, let's just do cosine. All right? So cosine is the x value, or let's say, sorry, the pi is the x value. So 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, right? Pi, and then 3 pi over 2, right? These are the x values right here, and these are the y. So if I get the cosine of each of these values, remember the cosine of 0 is 1. The cosine of root 4, pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. The cosine of pi over 2 is 0. So you notice here, and this is -1. This is back to 0 again. Okay, so this is the table of values right here. Now let's move this a little bit more, and let's graph this. Okay, so if I were to graph this here, okay, let me try a different color. All right, 0, 1 is up here. Okay? And then if I do pi over 2 right here and pi over 4 right here, pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. All right? And so if you do root 2 over 2 on a calculator, let me take this out, calculator. Root 2 is 1.414 divided by 2 is equal to 0.707. So 0.07 is like right here. Pi over 2 makes this 0, right? This is 3 pi over 4. And then this is pi. And by the time it hits pi, it's going to be at -1. So it would be going this way and this. All right? And so if you go this way, you're going to notice that the graph does something like this. All right? So that's the cosine. Now let's do the sine. So the sine of this whole thing. Remember sine, let's do the sine of, it's x and y. So the sine of 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, what were the other ones? It was pi, okay? So the sine of 0 is also 0, right? This is the sine, right? Because, yeah, sine of 0. Sine of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. Sine of pi is 1, right? Sine of pi is 0. Okay, so now, if we were to graph this thing, what does this equal? Well, here and here. 0, 0 starts here. Pi over 4 is right here, and that's up here. Pi over 2, so it hits 1 right there. Then 3 pi over 2, no, sorry, 3 pi over 4, and then pi. And once it hits pi, it goes back to 0 again. And it does this whole wave back over. So what's the difference between sine and cosine? Well, the sine graph starts at the 0, 0, and the cosine graph starts at 0, 1. Okay, so that's the biggest thing. It does the same thing except the starting point, and so it's just a shift. All right, so the cosine graph would look something like this, right? Something like this. Okay, whereas the sine graph is right here. Okay, so the cosine is blue and the red is the sine. Okay, again, let me know if you are still stuck. We could try to keep going with it. Let's keep rolling with it. It's fine. All right. Have a good day. I'll see you later.